Hey, what's going on? In this video, we're going to talk about some techniques for higher levels of willpower, specifically 4 tips and techniques based off the new science coming out based on self-control and self-regulation. My name's Brian Ogilvy. I'm the author of a book called How to Conquer Yourself, and in chapter 7 of How to Conquer Yourself, I discuss willpower in depth. So this video training is going to cover some of the ideas from that chapter. And a quote to start off. I really like quotes. This is from Shakespeare. "It's foolish to presume our power of resolve is constant. We're devils to ourselves when we tempt the frailty of our powers by presuming on their changeful potency." And hopefully by the end of this video, you have a better idea of exactly what this means. So let's start off with some concepts. First, willpower is an energy source to be found in your body and mind, not a character trait to be found in your personality. So think about it more like the vitality gauge in around a Street Fighter, rather than some super powerful transformer you can switch into at whim. Scientifically speaking, willpower is recovered either by rest or glucose, as in the sugar in food, but it's depleted by making decisions. So you want to focus on cultivating energy and avoiding fatigue. This is very important. Specifically, demystify the process. Stop thinking of willpower as a spiritual force or something from the depths of your soul, and focus more so on the practical behavioral techniques we're going to cover here. So first of the 4 is that you need to take frequent breaks. In other words, don't feel slave your mind, because when your work is mental, it's governed by different dynamics than it would be if you were on an assembly line. What I mean is that you want to stay harmonized with your what's known as your ultradian rhythm. This is not to be confused with your circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm governs whether or not we feel tired, like our sleep cycles and what have you. But there's also something called your ultradian rhythm that governs your energetic ups and downs during the day. There's a book called The 20-Minute Break by Ernest Rossi that talks more about this. So you want to focus on having short spurts of full concentration followed by short spans of full detachments. Like turn your cell phone off and go in with your work for about 50 minutes to an hour or 90 minutes max, then break for 20 minutes or 15 minutes. When you do that 2 or 3 times, then you can rest for like an hour. That's how I write. That's how I come up with stuff. Like just take breaks frequently to avoid what's known as decision fatigue or ego depletion. Secondly, create systems and develop routines. So reserve your willpower by automating decision-making processes. Like creative people tend to hate the idea of being routinized, but the reality is the more routines you have, the more creative you become, because you free your mental energy up from having to constantly figure out minuscule things. So as an example, on my site, dotheknowledge.com, Monday I do a Q&A, Tuesday I do a video like this, Wednesday I do a book excerpt, Thursday I do a podcast, Friday I do an archive of quotes that I stumble upon during the week. So my content generation is pretty crazy, but it takes me almost no energy because I don't have to think of anything because I already know the stuff, except for like the podcast or a video like this, which itself has a format to it. So think of systems like the skeleton to your body of work. Having a system lends a frame to your artistic efforts, no different than having a healthy skeletal structure lends frame to your physical body. Very important. Third, watch your diet. So eat foods that are low on what's known as the glycemic index. It's just basically a catalog that breaks down how fast the sugar from a food distributes throughout your bloodstream. Something high gives you a fast boost of energy. Some examples would include like coffee, sweets, etc., but it's followed by sharp crashes that send you tumbling downwards. Conversely, now something low on the glycemic index like apples, raw vegetables, etc., they don't send you rocketing up immediately, but they keep you sustained at a positive level for like long durations of time. So the trick here is to divulge or snack at negligible times of the day. So I'm not saying you have to eat healthy all the time, because that's impossible. Like that one objective would take all of your willpower in and of itself. But if you eat healthy around important activities and save the bad stuff for like later in the day, you'll find yourself much more focused and much more on point throughout the day, which is obviously important. Lastly, fragment the work. Work in sprints, not marathons. Always divide goals into minute fractions of activity that you can conceive yourself accomplishing within those periods of full concentration that we talked about between the breaks we broke down earlier. So as an example, this very video, once I have the idea, which will come to me like a morning or at night while I'm laying down, first I just do the text, then I do the images, then I sequence them. And so the whole thing cultivates or comes to itself through fragments or through sequences. And it takes a lot less energy than it would otherwise appear to regard or require. So here you want to be the opposite of holistic, because that's what obliterates most procrastination. Big, vague goals, by their very nature, they can be intimidating. So you want to be specific and you want to be fragmented, because otherwise you'll have self-doubt. You'll always procrastinate until you see things as isolated action steps you can actually do. It's very important. All right, so lesson overview. First, willpower is an energy source in your body and in your mind, not a character trait. So treat it like a health bar in a game of Street Fighter 2, not something out of Transformers 4. Take frequent breaks and stop field slaving your mind. Remember the ultradian rhythm. Create systems and develop routines to avoid decision fatigue. Eat low glycemic foods around important sessions or events whenever you need to be on point. And lastly, compartmentalize the work. Hone your willpower in on fragments you can actually grasp yourself doing. Because remember, it's about cultivating energy and avoiding fatigue. That's what willpower is, not sheer will in the sense of brute force. Again, here's that quote one more time. It's foolish to presume our power of resolve is constant. We're devils to ourselves when we tempt the frailty of our powers by presuming on their changeful potency. Shakespeare said this in his play Troilus and Cressida. Just stop thinking you'll eventually reach a point when you can turn the switch on whenever you want. Think about revamping how you approach the whole thing so you're just on indefinitely. To contact me, my email is brian@dotheknowledge.com. You can also call me. I have an office line now, 718-577-1344. And lastly, you can check out my site for free chapters of the book, more vids, podcasts like these, etc. I give out 2 free chapters. That way you have a sense of my writing style, a sense of what you're going to get before you decide to invest. And when you go to the site, you'll see it in the right side of the blog. There's a whole sidebar with a bunch of stuff. I try to make it as obvious as possible. So again, willpower is an energy source in your body and mind, not a character trait in your personality. Remember to check me out for any questions or concerns, and hope this helps. Take care.